Kambosos. Well, last night in the women's super featherweight division, Michaela Mayer defeated longtime IBF champion Maiva Hamadouche of La France. And while there were some gripes about the scorecard, most people agree that the right woman won the fight. And with that, Michaela Mayer has become the super featherweight division's unified IBF, WBO, and Ring Magazine champion, thereby warranting a rank on the women's Ring IQ pound-for-pound list. That's right. And as of last night's contest, last night's fight, Michaela Mayer emerges in the number 8 spot on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, and she's not alone. She's not the only one that has breached the list. Unified super lightweight 140-pound champion, WBC,
IBF and Ring Magazine champion
Chantel Cameron emerges in the number 9 spot of the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list per her last fight against the then reigning IBF champion Mary McGee. Reigning WBC bantamweight champion of Mexico, Yulihang Luna, drops down from number 9 to number 10. She is now in the most danger of being bumped off, and Denmark's Dina Thorsland.
She's out altogether.
It being that while Dina Thorsland is a 2-division champion, she never beat a champion to pick up any of those world titles. The one at 118 pounds or the one at 122 pounds. Both of those titles were vacant when Dina won them.
Yulihang Luna is now occupying the number 10 spot.
Yulihang Luna, who won her WBC title from the then reigning WBC champion Bobby Juarez, also of Mexico. Chantel Cameron, very recently in action in defense of her WBC title against reigning IBF champion Mary McGee.
Chantel won the fight,
effectively becoming a unified champion. You might be wondering, why is Michaela Mayer ranked ahead of Chantel Cameron? And it's simple. Michaela Mayer beat more champions for more alphabet titles. She won the WBO from Poland's own Iva Brotnicka, and last night she won the IBF from France's own Maiva Hamadouche, where Chantel Cameron...
The WBC title was vacant when she won it.
She fought Brazil's own amateur standout, Adriana Araujo, but Adriana was not a reigning champion. Mary McGee, she was. And in beating Mary, Chantel effectively established herself as the number 1 super lightweight,
thereby warranting a rank,
though just falling short of the mark behind Michaela Mayer, who had to go through 2 active reigning world champions for both of those alphabet titles. She had to go through Iva Brotnicka for the WBO, long-reigning champion Iva Brotnicka, who was undefeated, and Maiva Hamadouche last night for the IBF. As that tournament at 140 pounds progresses, going into the final next year, the winner of that fight could gain ground on Michaela Mayer, because the winner of that fight, the winner of that tournament, will be crowned their division's undisputed champion. And if they beat Michaela to the punch, they'll be ranked ahead of her, whoever it is, whether it's Kaylee Reese, Jessica Kamara, or Chantel Cameron.
So for the time being, Michaela's ranked ahead of Chantel.
Now you might notice that Jessica Bopp, who was ranked on the Ring IQ pound-for-pound list per the last update, she's absent. It's because of that fight she lost up there at 122 pounds. I talked about that here on the channel immediately after that fight. Jessica was ranked in the number 7 spot, and when she lost that spot, Senicia Estrada, who was ranked behind her, she moved up, took her place.
That's how that breaks down.
And even though Jessica Bopp is still the reigning WBA light flyweight champion, having rebounded off that loss I just mentioned, it's going to take a unification match for her to be reintegrated into this list.
That or a good number of title defenses.
Though given her age, I don't think she's got all the time in the world to amass them. Thus, the quickest way for Jessica to get reintegrated back into this list is to unify with one of the other champions at light flyweight. We'll see if that happens. For the time being, these are the updates to the women's Ring IQ pound-for-pound list, and the way things are looking, there's set to be more. In other news, per tweet from Michael Benson, Bob Arum has declared that he wants to make Teofimo Lopez versus Gervonta Davis next.
We have a track record working with the PBC. So if Floyd and Tank want that fight, I think we can get it. Tank's shown the ability to draw. Teofimo is Teofimo. That'd be a major fight.
I happen to agree. I think that's a fight that would draw well at the gate, and do generous pay-per-view numbers on pay-per-view if they were to get it over the line. The thing is, we saw what Floyd Mayweather Jr. said after Gervonta Davis's last fight with Mario Barrios. They're only doing in-house fights.
You think he won't change his mind?
Well, he might have to. I don't know what this Isaac Cruz fight is going to do on pay-per-view. Isaac Cruz, who's standing in for Rolly Romero. And even if that sex scandal hadn't have erupted and Rolly were the one that Gervonta Davis were fighting in December, I don't know what that pay-per-view would have done, because Rolly Romero is no more a household name than Isaac Cruz.
Neither one of those two guys make the pay-per-view more appealing.
Rolly Romero, Isaac Cruz, it's all the same. You're relying on Gervonta Davis, who is not yet a household name, not yet really a bona fide pay-per-view attraction, a real star, to sell the goddamn thing, and he's only gonna sell but so much with these kinds of dance partners. He could do a lot better with a Teofimo Lopez, but that would take the participation of Gervonta Davis, of Floyd Mayweather Jr., of Leonard Ellerbe, who I think are running out of options for their guy. If he goes in there and he knocks Isaac Cruz's block off, who does he fight after that? We don't know what the end result of this sex scandal with Rolly Romero is going to be. If his name is cleared, it's conceivable that they'll revisit that fight, though it won't be for a world title. I don't think. Gervonta Davis is in possession of a secondary title, a baby belt. And if he hangs on to it, they're going to order him to fight Teofimo Lopez because he is this division's full-fledged WBA champion. That's if he hangs on to the belt. If he chucks it, then he's free to fight whoever he wants to fight. But who out there is there?
How many in-house fighters does Mayweather Promotions have left for him?
There is still the name of reigning WBC featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. Gary Russell Jr., who many times in the past has expressed an interest in moving up in weight to take on Gervonta Davis. Though Gervonta and Leonard, they don't seem all that interested in making that fight. Given that they've been reduced to fighting the likes of a Rolly Romero and an Isaac Cruz, I think they might reconsider
Maybe
giving Gary an opportunity, though Gary is under orders to face his mandatory challenger of the Philippines, Magsayo, and we'll see how long it takes them to get that fight over the line. Beyond that, maybe they make Russell versus Davis?
Yeah, maybe, but Lopez versus Davis does better numbers than Russell versus Davis.
You're always hearing Leonard Smellerby dismiss guys like Josh Taylor, dismiss guys like Teofimo Lopez on the premise that they don't draw enough to get a fight with Tank. But how much does Isaac Cruz draw? How much does Rolly Romero draw? How much does Gary Russell draw? I mean, it's been over a year since that guy had a fight. Nobody's checking for him.
Most people don't know who the fuck he is.
A fight with Teofimo Lopez draws better at the gate and brings in more pay-per-view buys than a fight with any one of those three guys. Any one of them. Gary Russell, Isaac Cruz, or Rolly Romero. A Teofimo Lopez fight is a bigger fight, much bigger fight than a fight with any one of them. So,
At what point do the training wheels come off, Leonard?
Shakur Stevenson seems to think that Gervonta Davis would beat Teofimo Lopez, and I don't know, maybe he would. There really is only one way to find out.
I don't give a shit who you guys think wins the fight.
Or Shakur Stevenson. I just want to see it. I just want to see the goddamn fight. Because so long as Gervonta Davis keeps doing the dance with these kinds of dance partners, they're really putting a cap on how far he can go. They're putting a cap on his reach and appeal overall. Nobody cares about an Isaac Cruz fight, and before that, nobody really cared about a Rolly Romero fight.
A Lopez fight is a way bigger fight than any of those fights.
And just in keeping with the theme of all things Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor on Teofimo Lopez, I think he's scared of a rematch with Loma because he knows he fought an injured Lomachenko. I think Vasyl Lomachenko on full cylinders beats him. The Lopez people have been a bit indecisive when it comes to a Vasyl Lomachenko rematch. I vaguely recall hearing Teofimo Lopez's father, Sr., say that they're open to the fight, but since then, Teofimo Lopez himself, he's shut that idea down. He doesn't want to give Vasyl Lomachenko a rematch, and he's well within his rights not to. It's up to him. Though I do feel like there's something to what Josh Taylor is saying because you've spent all this time on a George Kambosos fight, and a George Kambosos fight don't get you the kind of money that a Loma rematch would, and yet
You've spent all this time on a George Kambosos fight.
he likely would have got more money fighting Vasyl Lomachenko in a rematch. He likely still can get more money fighting Vasyl Lomachenko in a rematch, but he deems this more necessary than a Loma rematch. Teofimo Lopez is still at lightweight. He's still hanging on to all those world titles. He hasn't moved up.
If it was so easy the first time, why don't you do the same thing for more money the second time?
There are a lot of people whose recollection of that fight is viewed through rose-tinted lenses. They're viewing the whole goddamn thing with blinders on. But what we all agree on is that Vasyl Lomachenko started off that fight by not throwing any punches. Teofimo Lopez was able to sweep the better portion of the first half because Loma wouldn't throw. So why wouldn't you go back in there with a guy that wouldn't throw? Why wouldn't you? For more money.
What are you afraid of?
Whether it's coming from Teofimo Lopez's fans or Vasyl Lomachenko's detractors, his critics, both of those factions of fight fans, they'll all tell you the same thing, that Lopez won easy. So if he won easy and it was decisive, Why wouldn't he go back for seconds when there's more money involved? When it could actually be a pay-per-view this time with a live gate?
Remember, when they fought, it was in the bubble.
And no audience was present. There was no live gate revenue. That arm of revenue wasn't there before, but it's there now. They can do the fight in front of people, a lot of people, this time, so why wouldn't he go back if he won easy? It just doesn't make sense.
Coming from the guy that needed a year to get the Kambosos fight over the line just for a few more dollars.
Is he going to move up immediately after the Kambosos fight, or is he going to stick around at lightweight? Hang on to those belts, because if he does, a Vasyl Lomachenko fight makes a lot of sense. You know, Teofimo Lopez, he's a WBC franchise champion, not to be confused with a WBC world champion. The WBC franchise designation comes with special characteristics, special attributes that would allow Teofimo Lopez to move right up after that Kambosos fight and take Josh Taylor on straight away as his mandatory, because a franchise champion can move up or down to any weight of his choosing and challenge that weight's WBC champion. Now at 140 pounds, we know who's got the green belt.
Josh Taylor's got the green belt.
If Teofimo Lopez wants to, he can move right up after that Kambosos fight and get that guy. But if for any reason at all, he stays at lightweight and he keeps insisting he won't give Vasyl Lomachenko a rematch, that's going to look pretty strange. It will. If you don't move up to fight Josh, and you're not going to fight Devin, but you're also not going to fight Vasyl Lomachenko.
Make up your fucking mind.
He's fighting Devin, he's not fighting Devin, but he's also moving up to 140 to fight Josh Taylor, but it has to be at a catch weight for all the titles from 135 to 140, but he's not going to fight Vasyl Lomachenko. I mean, which one is it?
And I can understand why he's wanting big fights and stuff as well, but he's going about it the wrong way. He's a fucking idiot. He's an absolute clown of a person, you know. If he was speaking like that to me and I was here, I would slap him that hard his moustache would hit the tarmac.
The thing is, that's what I was going to say, because we've seen him and Devin Haney go at it in Fresno about a month ago, and I kind of said to everybody, they said, is Josh going to the Canelo fight? What would Josh do if Teo came up to him? And I says, I know what I'd said, but I would let you tell me what you would do if Teo and his dad came up to you at the Canelo fight or something like that and started talking sort of smack.
Talking like that, they would get slapped. They would get slapped, straight and simple. But you know, obviously you can't go about throwing your hands about. But I would definitely bitch slap him, because he is a little bitch. He's acting like a bitch, and he's actually a complete clown.
You said that he's got unfinished business down at lightweight, which I'm guessing you're saying is Devin Haney, since he holds that WBC belt. You don't believe he's undisputed, do you?
It's a fact. It's a fact. He's not undisputed. WBC belt belongs to Devin Haney. He's got the belt. So how can you have three of the belts, and have a franchise belt and call yourself undisputed champion when you haven't fought for the undisputed title? So it's a fact that he's not undisputed champion. And stop calling himself undisputed champion, because he's fucking embarrassing himself.
You know, every time I hear Lopez Sr. say that Josh Taylor is somehow afraid of his son,
I think to myself, what's this guy on?
this ain't some teen or some tween you're dealing with. Josh Taylor is a grown man. This isn't some prima donna, some peacock like Ryan Garcia. This isn't a young upstart like a Devin Haney. I mean, this guy, he's not in that age group. He's not that kind of guy.
He's not indecisive.
He is very direct, and he was willing to travel to the United States to see himself become an undisputed champion, whereas Teofimo Lopez has grown quite comfortable using Josh Taylor's name for interviews.
But he's not comfortable going to the UK.
I think a shouting match between Teofimo Lopez and Josh Taylor, like the one we saw at the Mikey Garcia versus Sandor Martin fight, you know, between Teofimo and Devin Haney, I think that kind of a melee would go very different if it were Josh Taylor he was shouting at.
Because he's not a child.
That stuff, that's kid stuff. That's kid stuff what we saw, mustering up that kind of energy for a guy you're probably not even about to fight. Now, Eddie Hearn has reiterated to reporters that he wants to make Teofimo Lopez versus Devin Haney for the undisputed WBA, WBC, IBF, and WBO lightweight titles next, and said he's told Bob Arum he'd be happy for it to be on ESPN pay-per-view or DAZN.
I don't drive a hard bargain.
If Teofimo Lopez doesn't fight Vasyl Lomachenko next, and he doesn't move up in weight to take on Josh Taylor, but he ends up fighting Devin Haney instead, I'm okay with that.
I won't complain.
But whether or not that actually happens, well, it's another question entirely. Given the kind of purses that Devin Haney has been getting fight by fight over there on the Matchroom DAZN side of things, he's going to expect that and more to cross over to ESPN. And we know Bob.
He's a penny pincher.
Though before it even becomes about Haney versus Lopez, Haney must first make it past Jojo Diaz.
I think he can.
I think he will. Nothing against Jojo Diaz. I credit him for deciding to take on this fight where he could have taken a similar stance to Ryan Gersha, found excuse after excuse not to fight Devin Haney, but Jojo Diaz is giving the fight fans what they want, and under these circumstances, this is what they wanted, though ultimately, I do think Devin Haney is going to beat him. I'm going to say that.
Likely on points.
This could be the signature fight that Devin Haney's been looking for, the signature fight that he needs. And I don't want to get into a full-on breakdown just yet, but I am confident that Devin Haney can win a points decision against Jojo Diaz. Beyond that, does a Lopez fight happen? Eddie Hearn is willing to send Devin over to Top Rank. The question is Top Rank...
Top Rank willing to foot the bill?
Is Top Rank willing to pay for the fight? Because Devin Haney's going to want what he's been getting and then some. And Teofimo Lopez...
He's probably going to want more than he's making to fight Kambosos.
If the price of the fight proves to be more than Bob Arum is willing to shell out, is he willing to let Teofimo Lopez go back over to the DAZN Matchroom side of things to let them pay for the fight, to let them foot the bill? Or is that going to be one time too many, since that's what Teofimo's next fight is going to be, on the Matchroom DAZN side of things? I'll tell you what, Teofimo Lopez is caught between a rock and a hard place, because any opponent, not just any opponent, will do. It's either you give Vasil Lomachenko a rematch, people are going to criticize you for still being at lightweight and not giving him a rematch, or you take on Devin Haney, you silence those naysayers, or you skip those two guys altogether and you move up and take on Josh Taylor.
Bob Arum wants to do a Davis fight.
What are the odds we get that fight after the Kambosos fight? What are the odds that Floyd Mayweather, Leonard Ellerby, and the people at Mayweather Promotions, what are the odds that they change their mind in that kind of time frame? It's not the worst thing in the world that Teofimo Lopez has so many options, so much variety to choose from, though he does seem a bit indecisive to me, and I'm very curious what's going to happen after the George Kambosos fight, and what direction will his career go next?
Look forward to finding out.